Hey there, everyone. I'm so excited to be checking in. A lot has been going on. First thing is that my son is now 2 as of yesterday, and it's just wild. He won't stay small, but he does still cuddle. So, you know, next thing is my digital course is now available for teachers everywhere. I'm so excited. I will drop the link below. Calming the Classroom Chaos: How to Transform Your Classroom Management by Cultivating Self Awareness. Most of the course is focusing on skills that help students become more self aware because once they become more self aware, they are capable of self management, of developing those social skills and making responsible decisions. And those are all social, emotional, and behavioral skills that can be developed in our classrooms. And the best part is you can do this with the procedures and the things that you're already doing. You just add an extra step here and there, or you make an adjustment here and there. Um, so I'm really excited to bring that to you. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is one of like 5 classroom management SEL based courses that I plan on making. My next one will be on self management. So once they have the self awareness, they'll move into, and you can do these things in tandem. Um, but I don't have like 2 of me, so I can only do one at a time. Um, I also started my doctorate program. I'm currently in the education specialist program for learning, instruction, and innovation. I'm strongly debating going to the doctorate of education, which is not a PhD, but it's still a doctorate because I feel it will help me in helping other teachers and in the work that I do with kids because I'm going back to the classroom. I'll be working in kindergarten, which I've never done before, but yes, I have already purchased a kitchen set with all the kitchen food, and I will not stop. I'm going to have a dramatic play area, like a really nice one. And I also have to build up my library again, um, which is okay. We can do these things. But today I wanted to talk about what is the function of education? What is the purpose of education? I ask this because I'm in week 2 of my doctorate program. And the first course, and like, okay, so here's my notebook, and I've already taken that many notes. And it's week 2. I have a problem. But, anyways, that's a separate issue. But I'm looking at a case study that's talking about issues in K-12 education. And the case study, it hones in on the Common Core state standards. And um, a lot of this data is from pre-pandemic. So that is something to keep in mind because the pandemic kind of exemplified a lot of the challenges and the issues within education, and it really just like exacerbated all of those. Um, so yeah, a lot of the information I'm reading is coming from like, yeah, before pandemic. And that's just something to keep in mind. But I was going through, it's like a 60-page document. It had 9 main documents, and it talked about a whole bunch of different things related to the Common Core state standards. And I want to talk about it with you. One, because I have to write a paper on it and I'm still kind of synthesizing like what my position is. Ultimately, I think there should be a national state, like a national understanding of the standards. I think it helps educators, it helps schools, it helps districts, it helps states. Now, like within that, can there be some adjustments? Sure, between the states, but like there should be a core of understanding of what the standards are. Um, do I think we have the best version? Absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. I think there's been a lot of unintended consequences of focusing solely on ELA or English language arts and math. Um, some of those that I have very strong feelings about, and others that I'm still learning about. Um, So ultimately, I do believe that there should be a nationwide understanding of what standards are expected in each grade level going through. However, like there are some big changes that need to be made. And now that we're in this kind of post-pandemic space, I do feel that it's time we update and tweak and make changes that we are recognizing um, really aren't helping or really aren't working or something, especially when it comes to the only way that we are measuring the success of students with the Common Core state standards are with these high stakes standardized tests. And if you know me, I am not a fan. I would like to say goodbye to every single one. But ultimately, I kept coming back to the question, what's the function of education? What's its function? What's its purpose? What are we as teachers, as schools and districts doing? What are we moving students forward to? Now, the Common Core state standards, if you aren't a teacher, you might not know this, but if you are, you've definitely heard this. It's to get kids college and career ready. Well, when they go to college, they're learning a more specific trade to go to a career. So ultimately, all of it's pushing us to a career. Is that the function of education? Is to just create workers, create employees? That's what I wonder. Um, is that what we're doing? If that is, I don't agree with it. I think just to create workers is not fulfilling the goal of what I got into teaching for. Not only that, but I think there's a huge disconnect between what the schools are working towards and just those standards. I think there's so much more than just the standards. Like, yeah, we want people who can be efficient workers, who can have passions and go into a career of something that they feel really strongly about. I do believe in that. I do believe that it helps to have a focus because making money helps us live. Um, it's necessary, right? We need to be doing these things. Um, but I think if we just strip education down to what the standards are moving us towards, and that's being college and career ready, we're missing a lot. And as a result, schools are cutting a lot because their focus is now ELA and math. And this has been talked about for over a decade now. Um, losing sight of, well, we don't have to be hitting, the social studies standards as hard. Or, we don't have the space for science every day. They don't need art or music. We can cut these classes and it's all for funding, right? Um, it's not necessarily because schools want to be losing these things. It's the insane toxic pressure that I feel has come down and um won't release itself on the state of education, and I think it's a real problem. Um so yeah, there's this pressure because if the kids don't do well on their test scores, these high stakes standardized testing, that is one size fits all. We have a couple accommodations that we have to fight tooth and nail to get for certain students who need them, right? Just to access the material on the test. Um, but more than that, if schools aren't doing well, their funding is impacted, which I think is bonkers because if the goal of these tests is to find out what schools are being successful and what schools are struggling, tying funding isn't going to help those struggling schools. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to do what we want it to. Like, those schools need more funding and a greater focus from us. We need to look at what those schools that are successful, what they're doing to be qualified as successful, and bring that to these schools. And that means making sure that there are teachers there, providing the funding, providing the resources. We have to push in. And I'm so sorry, you might be able to hear my son. He's watching Bluey so that I can do this video real fast. But anyways, another piece that kind of ties into it, and I got so irritated reading through it. I'm pretty sure just concern is just written on my notes, right here. I got so frustrated. Um, so talking about rigorous teaching and accountability for schools and districts. labeling schools as reward schools. They get more funding as a reward, which, like, totally fine. They get freedom to choose innovative programs, which also fine. But like, schools that are struggling are labeled challenge schools or challenge districts, and they get restrictions on how they can use the funding. It even says, and this is what really, really like irks me, is that districts can implement strategies like expanded learning time because doing more of the same thing that isn't working is the solution. Um, Public school choice. So instead of saying, like, let's build you up to the same status as all of our other schools that are being successful, let's give parents choice. Get some of the students who have the ability, because again, if you cannot drive your student to a different school, then school choice doesn't matter. And that impacts, the kids who deal with higher poverty, who are our minority students. Like, they don't get to participate in school choice. That is an affluent ability for people. So by just saying, okay, well, we're just going to offer school choice and, like, to hell with the school, like, that solves nothing, because many students and many families don't have the opportunity to make a choice, right? So if we focus on building up all the schools that are struggling, we need to push in funding, we need to push in resources, we need to make sure that every position in those schools are filled. So that really struck a nerve. But not only that, but challenge schools and challenge districts have the constant threat of not having a job next year. And I'm going to stand up for teachers here and say that there are amazing teachers in these schools that might be considered a challenge school. And challenge school is different from a Title One. Title One, it means that you're in a place with high poverty, with families with high poverty and just high needs. But that does not equate to a challenge school. Just want to make that separation there. But for these teachers to constantly be under the threat of a state takeover, or, not being rehired despite all of the hard work that they are doing, because they're working their butts off. Um, that's not a healthy environment to be teaching in. That's not a healthy environment for anybody. And then you get the stress and the pressure to teach to the test so that you don't lose your job. So now we're not enjoying teaching, right? Like, we're getting the pressure to teach to the test so that we don't lose our job, so we can do the thing that we are highly trained in. Like, we have been given years of education so that we can be successful here. That also really irks me. Um, like, just a simple idea right here to try and address this is, like, you're only as strong as your weakest player. And if our weakest player are these challenge schools, then why don't we take those reward schools, take the funding that we are giving them and use as a stipend, so that the administration that is successful, the teachers that are successful, can buddy up with a school or another district that is struggling, so that we can start modeling what those successful schools are doing and build them up, right? Like, those challenge schools also deserve funding. They also deserve to use innovative programs to help bring their children up. Like, restrictions, like, when do greater restrictions solve a problem? I don't know. If you would like to share any of those, let me know. Leave a comment. So that's one of my big things. But anyways, returning back to, like, the function of education. So if we're just getting assessed and judged and critiqued on ELA and math, which I'm not saying aren't important, they're definitely vital skills that you need to develop consistently in order to be successful in life, right? If you are illiterate, your life is so, I can't even imagine how challenging your life is trying to get through. Like, it baffles. Like, I hope literacy for every single person. I think that makes a huge difference. But in my opinion, again, my opinion, this is my response to the case study that I'm reading. I feel that if we just focus on ELA and math, we are not creating students who will be successful. If we are creating workers, if we are following what the Common Core state standards are saying and that we're getting them college and career ready, we need to listen to what, employers and companies are looking for. And with technology and all the advancement, they are talking about how they need those soft skills. Soft skills are problem solving, effective communication, being able to collaborate with others, dealing with your emotions so that you do not lose it in a meeting. These soft skills are honest, these are social and emotional skills. It's development. And there's like people who have very strong opinions about not teaching these social emotional skills in school. But I think they absolutely deserve a place, especially because this is what companies are asking for, right? If we're teaching them and helping them get ready for a job, companies are saying, hey, they need emotional intelligence. They need to be able to handle themselves. They need to problem solve. They need to be able to have empathy and develop a perspective. My child is screaming at me. Yes, hon. Okay. Um anyways, uh so I argue that there should be some kind of understanding of development throughout the years that is focused on social skills and emotional skills. Yeah, dude. Right. I'm going to wrap this up really soon, I promise, because he's probably just in the car watching Bluey. His car is new for his birthday. Um, anyways, so I do believe that if we're going to make standards and make them a national thing, which we have, it shouldn't just be an ELA in math. I think we should have a more a focus on social, emotional, and behavioral development because without that, teachers don't know where to start, don't know where to go. That's why I create the courses I create because I have solutions, I have answers, and I am doing the research, right? My focus in my doctoral program will be in behavior and classroom management tied to social, emotional, and behavioral development. Um, so, like, I think there should be standards for more. Not only that, but I believe that we are developing the whole child. That when they leave high school, they have a direction, right? And that will help them with work or things, but they also should have hobbies, interests, opinions, views on things. And if we're not doing and providing for them to learn how to have hobbies, like through sports, through the arts, through, opportunities to learn something new, then we aren't supporting that student in becoming successful as an adult. So I do think we need to make sure that there is variety. We need to have standards so that rather than just focus on ELA and math, because those are the standards we're working on, let's bring in other areas. And I know every state really has standards. Like my one of my good friends is an art teacher, and she has standards, but those are state specific. And I don't know how well states correlate with each other on things like that. I have another teacher, a friend who's a teacher for PE, and they also have standards, but those are state specific. I don't know, again, how they correlate. If a student moves from one state to another, like what does that do? Um, so I do think that if we can set some expectations nationally, then there might be less pressure on districts and states to push ELA and math solely. We can also just get rid of the testing, find different ways to assess this kind of learning. Whatever. Um, but more than that, I had a thought. I have many thoughts. I also feel that it's time that we go back in and make adjustments because the standards we have, and this was a really good point actually brought up to me by another a classmate of mine, is that there's not enough time to teach the wild amount of standards in the subject, right? So ELA standards are broken up into like speaking and listening, informational text, literature, which is fictional. You have foundational skills, which is, phonemic awareness and phonics, that ability to decode words and actually like put them together with fluency. Those are all different subsections of English language arts standards. And there's too much to get through in a grade level. And any curriculum that you see brought in that uses the Common Core state standards, which is helpful, right? That's great that they're bringing that in. You can't get through. You can't get through a whole curriculum. Like, I don't know a single teacher who's able to honestly say that they got through the whole year of curriculum. And felt good about getting through it. Like, that's the other thing. Like, do you feel your kids were successful because you just pushed through to get to the end of the curriculum? Or was there something that you really should have spent more time on? And this isn't a judgment of teachers. Like, you do what you got to do, right? But should we be putting an expectation that's going to be failed by having so many standards per grade level? And that leads me to my next thought is, are these standards developmentally appropriate? I'm thinking specifically for kindergarten, first, and second grade students. Are we, by pushing so many standards in one subject, are we making this less accessible for success, right? Are we making it harder for students to be successful, feel successful, and move on to the next grade level with success because there's too much to get through, because it's not developmentally appropriate? I worked at a district where second graders were expected to write 6 paragraphs because that's what the district believed was okay. And it's not developmentally appropriate. I'm going to say that now. That's another reason why we've got to go back in. We've got to make sure we're being developmentally appropriate, paying attention to the milestones of student learners. Now, I do believe that the science of reading is considering, like, when you look at the decades of research from the science of reading and everything there, they do factor in developmental and the child development piece. So that's helpful. However, like, this research is only, like, it's been around for a long time, but we're listening to it now, right? We're listening to it now, and those standards were created quite some time ago. So just, even if we just review the standards to make sure that they're lining up with current research, and like I said, making sure that there's a national standard for more than just ELA and math, I think is really important. They said, so the people who weren't even educators, it was like committees, the Department of Ed, which might have former teachers. I'm hoping, good Lord, I'm hoping that they had former teachers there. They're saying that, like, that their intention is to get 100% graduation rates. They have an ambitious goal. And I'm like, I understand you have an ambitious goal, but what impact is that having of saying every single student is going to graduate? Well, how many kids are being pushed through without getting the support that they actually need? Because the pressure is, we need 100% graduation rates. And reality, it's not happening. Yeah, I would love to make sure that every single child grows and graduates from high school because it will help them be successful. I do. But realistically, that's just not something that's happening. It's not something that's happening. So we've got to go for what's happening now and put improvement in. Hey, babe. Is it time to get off? Yeah, that's okay. Mom's gonna wrap it up. So, in conclusion, I want to ask the world, what is the function of education? What is it that we're doing here? What are we trying to create when students graduate? What kind of people do we want these students to be and be able to do when they graduate from high school? Is it just to be college and career ready? Is it to be somebody who can deal with a frustration for, say, like at the airport and your flight is canceled or you miss your flight because of a delay? Are we trying to create people that can handle that situation without losing it on people who work for the airline but have no control over the fact that they missed their flight? Like, are we trying to have people who are productive members of society that know how to, fix, like, fix a button, right? Those little life skills where it's, oh, I just got to get rid of the whole shirt because my button fell off and it looks really weird. Teach them how to solve that problem. Teach them how to, deal with their own bank account. Learn how to save money. Understand what contracts are so that when they sign up for student loans, for a credit card, when they sign a lease agreement to rent an apartment, they understand what they're doing. I think those skills are necessary to be successful in life. Learning how to register to vote if it's not an automatic thing in your state. Learning how to think critically of people who are running for office and to have productive discourse with people that you might not agree with so that you can be open-minded to different ideas, um, and be willing to change your perspective. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment. I will include my digital course link down below. I honestly, truly would love to hear what you think the function of education is. And if you have any solutions for, like, well, what do we do next in education? I would love to hear your thoughts. Do I have control or power over any of this? Not really. But maybe that's a direction I go in. I don't know. Anything can happen, right? Um, but I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope that the weather is beautiful where you are, and I hope that you find something to be grateful for. I'll talk to you later.